Hello, and welcome to another edition of Artfully Orange. I'm Vicki Landon, Administrator for Orange County's Office of Arts and Cultural Affairs, and I'm here with Ishaan Vadhera, who is from a number of organizations, and we're going to talk about all of them, but in particular, Joyful Orlando. Ishaan, welcome. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely, Vicky. What a pleasure.
I want to kick off with a provocative question for you. What is a creativepreneur?
Ooh, wow. I think most locally, I heard the term first from Colney Smith many years ago. And essentially, I feel like a creativepreneur is somebody who brings in the business mindset and the art mindset or the creativity mindset together in a way where you're not only thinking about the creativity or the expression of the art itself, but also bringing together all the other aspects that might require for you to support that ecosystem for that art to flourish or the creativity to flourish. So somebody who's an artist plus entrepreneur or creative plus entrepreneur is how I look at the creativepreneur. But I think it goes beyond just a business mindset as much as being creative enough to kind of bring all the elements together.
Okay, well, how did you get into this career path? I know that by junior year of undergrad, you'd already worked with like Sonic and Disney and Marriott and the Detroit Pistons. Like, tell us your story and your journey to how you got into this career field.
Oh, wow. So I came to the US in 2009. That was the first time I stepped into this country, and I went to school in Indiana. And towards my senior year of my schooling in Indiana State University, I got an internship with a gentleman here in Orlando, Florida, who was just starting out his social media company back in 2012. And we started out on his dining table, and it was just one of those experiences where social media was so new that corporations and big companies hadn't really jumped onto really understanding the value of it and figuring out where they're going to fit in. So in that startup, I really got to work on some of these brands that were just opening up their mindsets towards storytelling online from a social media point of view. And that was my first interaction with Orlando, and I fell in love. I met people like Chris Castro and Clayton Ferreira, who were doing some really good things when it came to sustainability and environment, and really helped me see the vision for Orlando being one of those cities where there's going to be a very healthy ecosystem for culture, for arts, for diversity, and for obviously environment and sustainability. So that's when I really was like, okay, maybe that's how I need to really look at where I want to move next after my undergrad. And, I made my way to Orlando, and Orlando has been really nice. I think it's given me access to a lot of these projects and companies that are always on the edge of experimentation. And the community that we live in over here definitely is one of those where it's encouraged a lot. So the journey has been pretty nice. And I mean, I also went back to Indiana to get my MBA, but eventually in 2017, I moved back here, started my own production house, and started calling Orlando my home, which is very interesting because we call Orlando the City Beautiful. And my hometown in India, Chandigarh, is also called the City Beautiful. So it was like a sign from the universe for me to just feel like, okay, I'm at home, but far away from home in that sense.
Serendipitous. I love that. So, but the firm that you do now, you're doing storytelling for like big Fortune 500 brands, right? Like NFL and NBA and Amazon and Facebook. And I see you've even worked with like the Tourism Bureau for Puerto Rico. And so, can you talk a little bit about what it's like showing up as the artist and as the creative voice in these very corporate spaces?
Oh, it's very interesting. I think the thing that really guides me as an artist over here, which really encourages me to be an entrepreneur, is that I had this realization that at the end of the day, I want to be my biggest patron. And in order to be my biggest patron, I have to adapt the role of the businessman in that sense. Obviously, the MBA helps and the experiences in the past helps. But really, the idea was that if I don't want to compromise the vision on my art and how I want to be able to express myself, it's all the more important for me to sort of embrace that sort of other aspect, which a lot of creatives sometimes stay away from. I grew up in a family where my dad is a big prolific painter in India itself. And just to see the other aspects of what comes with creativity and the torment and also the joys that come with it, I think really motivated me to sort of be in this intersection of creativity and business and really just find that sort of groove, because we do live in a time now where a lot of those worlds have mixed and merged, and I think we have a lot more ways to quantify some of these results and measure them so that companies can also find budgets in a way that actually supports the arts. So the fact that arts have sort of mainstreamed their way into storytelling itself has really helped shape a lot of how my production company runs, but also the other initiatives that I'm doing around town.
That's great. So what was the medium that your dad's artwork was in? Was he like in acrylics or
He's
oil
a
or
fine
sculpture?
artist. He's a fine artist. He's a fine artist, but he's known as the mask man of India. He's really, really popular for his paper mache work. And a lot of his artwork also incorporates a lot of mask making, people wearing masks in different societies, and how we show up in different places. There's a lot of philosophy around the idea of masking ourselves given our circumstances, etc. So a lot of his work is around the fine art of like acrylics, oil, and also paper mache and stuff. Yeah.
Now, we've been talking a lot about your business savvy and your storytelling, and that has creativity as part of it. But we haven't talked about you as artist, right? And I know you are an artist. I think I see your work behind you, and your style is this sort of abstract doodle Picasso-esque. Talk to us a little bit about your art and how long you've been painting.
Yeah, I've been painting since I was a child in general, but I mean, coming from any other Indian family, you would know that, you want to go and secure other things first to really feel, like I mentioned about the patron aspect of it. But I think expression has always been at the helm of how I've presented myself. And I think art is one way of expressing it in that sense. For me, a lot of my art is inspired by the Cubist masters and surreal masters, but also I call it like a tribal graffiti-esque sort of a
Mm.
way, like it's been described. The way I like to be inspired when I'm telling stories in my art is through that hieroglyphic language way where symbolism plays a very important part in it. And, I go by the name Painter Yogi on Instagram. Or for many years, I was going by the name Painter Yogi because it was like a form of yoga for me. It was a way of being able to meet myself at the blank canvas and really just pour out what was happening without any preconceived notions or expectations of what was going to come out. And that's how my style has like developed over the years. And during COVID, I saw what was happening within the world and within our city itself. So I wanted to, use art as a way of uplifting the spirits of the people. So I came up with this little kitty cat. I call it Cyclopus. It's a positivity spreading pussycat that I've been like painting everywhere. I would leave people notes with positive messages, PAWS, positive messages everywhere. Where yeah, like just kind of playing along. The internet loves cats to begin with, so I wanted to incorporate my own symbol, and I found it a little ironic that we were in the city of the mouse, where there's a little cat a cat can also survive. So this has been my body of work for the last few years, where I've started incorporating Cyclopus into my art form and the Cubist art forms that I've been given. And really, locally, it's kind of gaining its own traction and like finding its own fanfare, etc.
Now, you talked about this being a practice of being able to meet yourself at the blank canvas, but I found an old video of you meeting yourself at a blank white panel van and drawing all over it with a marker. Tell me about what that experience is like.
No, you are an internet sleuth. I love it. Like you definitely went down the rabbit hole over there. It was a very interesting project that I got to do. A friend of mine who was a content creator decided to buy a school bus, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to paint it white, and I really want your art on it as I drive around United States, kind of doing my thing." I think he did that for a year and a half, and he kind of just parked the van in my driveway for a few hours, and I think it took me 3 or 4 hours to just eat up the whole van as far as like really
That's not
going
a lot of
on.
time.
Not a lot of time. And I think that's something about my style in that sense is that I usually don't go with a preconceived concept of what I'm going to make, as much as it's about getting to a state of mind where I can literally just watch my hand flow. And I think it's really nice when you find that state of being a witness to your own art while it's happening. And I think, that allows me to sort of create things quickly, but at the same time, also create things from a very subconscious point of view without many expectations of judgment, whether the circle was perfect or the triangle came out the
Mm.
way I wanted it, etc., etc. Yeah.
So I'm hearing a through line through a lot of your work, right? That you're sort of speaking creativity to the business community and then speaking branding and business to the creative community, that you're looking about finding the heart in places, that your art is your art, but it's also notes of encouragement and notes of happiness. And so I want to talk about that blending a little bit more in your role now at Joyful Orlando, where your title is, and I'm going to read this to say it correctly, you are the Director of Human Sunshine. What is that
Absolutely.
title? What is that role? What is Joyful Orlando, and what are you doing with your work there?
So, Joyful Orlando fell into my lap a few months ago as an initiative that was being spearheaded by a gentleman in town named Greg Pollock. And he actually approached Global Peace 360, which is headed by David Wheeler, and they run the Global Peace Film Festival. And it was Greg's mission to really find a platform in the city where we could aggregate all the mindful consciousness and spiritual events that were happening in the city, because the city really has a scene, but we couldn't get them all together in one place. So a lot of the community was very siloed, for lack of a better word. And when the initiative really started, they were looking for somebody who was a storyteller, who was interested in mindfulness, consciousness, and the space, but somebody who could really take that, educate the other people around, and bring them together. So my experience in social media storytelling, and also my interest in the mediums of consciousness and mindfulness, really brought me together to kind of play this role that was missing for the infrastructure that Global Peace 360 and Greg were like trying to put together into the ecosystem. And so what Joyful Orlando is now we have a brand new website that came out. It's essentially an Eventbrite, but only for mindfulness, consciousness, and wellness events that are happening in the city. So if you go to joyfulorlando.com, you can literally see all the meditations that are happening, the yoga classes, the sound bowls, ecstatic dances, and so many other modalities that are available to the citizens of Orlando and Central Florida, that they can, one, obviously go there for their own mental peace and find joy, inner joy from that point of view, but also find the people that they might be looking for. I think there's a big shift happening within our culture where people are looking for entertainment or places of solace without just it being loud clubs and bars. And I think we're definitely here to kind of just fill that space up and provide that platform to people to be able to sort of find that community for themselves.
Yeah. So you've mentioned joyfulorlando.com, but if people want to connect with Ishaan, if people want to connect with the painter yogi, with the brand strategist, with the director of Human Sunshine, where can they find you on various socials, internet? Where do they go?
Definitely. I mean, Instagram would be the best place. That's where I'm the most active. And my Instagram handle, my personal Instagram handle that they can reach out to me on is at IVADHERA, which is basically my first initial and my last name without any spaces or dots or underscores. And I think that would be the best place to kind of find them. But I do run a few initiatives in town. I actually own the name at Orlando's on Instagram. So if you look up Instagram.com/Orlando, that's my channel. And I really try to focus on what's happening locally within the city as far as the storytelling that goes over there, because I think a lot of people outside of our city just think of us as the big amusement parks that we house in our city, but our beautiful community is so much more than that, and I would love for more and more people to know about that for sure.
Well, I am grateful that at least this one more person knows about it today. So thank you so much for spending time with us here on Artfully Orange. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Vicky.
All right. And thank you for joining us on this edition of Artfully Orange.